Joan of Arc, born around 1412 in Domremy, a small village in northeastern France, emerged as a pivotal figure in the 100 Years' War, a conflict that had ravaged France for decades, pitting England and its Burgundian allies against the French crown. Her origins were humble. She was the daughter of Jacques d'Arc, a farmer, and Isabelle Romée, a devout woman who instilled in her a deep religious faith. The war had reached a critical juncture, with France suffering a series of devastating defeats, including the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, leaving the Dauphin Charles, the uncrowned heir to the French throne, facing legitimacy challenges and diminished hopes. Domremy, though small, was not entirely untouched by the conflict, and Joan grew up amidst tales of French defeats and the perceived injustices inflicted by the English. From a young age, Joan was extraordinarily pious and devoted to her faith, spending hours in prayer and exhibiting a strong sense of compassion for others. Around the age of 13, Joan began to experience visions and hear voices, which she identified as those of Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret, daughter. These voices initially offered comfort and guidance, but gradually conveyed a more urgent message. She was chosen by God to expel the English from France and secure the Dauphin's coronation. Despite her youth and lack of military experience, Joan believed wholeheartedly in her divine mission and felt compelled to act, seeing it as her sacred duty to obey God's commands. In 1429, at the age of 17, Joan left Domremy and embarked on a perilous journey to Vaucouleurs, taking an audience with Robert de Baudricourt, the local garrison commander, to request an escort to Chinon, where the Dauphin Charles resided. Baudricourt initially dismissed her claims, considering her a naive peasant girl, but Joan's unwavering conviction and prophetic insights eventually impressed him, leading him to grant her a limited audience and a small armed escort. After a series of encounters and demonstrations of her faith and unusual knowledge, Joan finally convinced Baudricourt to provide her with an audience with the Dauphin Charles at Chinon. Arriving in Chinon in February 1429, Joan was subjected to rigorous questioning and scrutiny by Charles and his court, who were skeptical of her claims and concerned about her potential as a political pawn or a heretic. To test her authenticity, Charles disguised himself amongst his courtiers, but Joan purportedly recognized him immediately, claiming she was guided by divine voices to identify the true king. Convinced of her sincerity and perhaps desperate for any advantage, Charles authorized a theological investigation to assess Joan's faith and intentions, and ultimately allowed her to lead the French army to relieve the besieged city of Orléans. Clad in white armor, Joan of Arc, with a banner depicting God and the lilies of France, inspired the demoralized French troops and led them in a series of successful assaults against the English fortifications at Orléans in May 1429. Her courage, unwavering faith, and tactical acumen revitalized the French army and broke the English siege of Orléans, marking a turning point in the 100 Years' War. Following the liberation of Orléans, Joan led a series of successful campaigns against English-held towns and fortresses along the Loire River, reclaiming key territories for France and paving the way for Charles' coronation. In July 1429, Joan escorted Charles to Reims, the traditional coronation city of French kings, and witnessed his coronation as Charles II, fulfilling one of her divine mandates. Despite her military successes, Joan faced opposition from some members of the French court and clergy, who were suspicious of her powers and feared her influence over Charles. In May 1430, during the siege of Compiègne, Joan was captured by Burgundian forces, allies of the English, while leading a sortie against the town's defenses. Sold to the English, Joan was handed over to Bishop Pierre Courchon, an English cleric who orchestrated a trial for heresy and witchcraft in Rouen. The trial, politically motivated and conducted with numerous irregularities, aimed to discredit Joan and undermine Charles VI's legitimacy. Joan was subjected to relentless questioning, isolation, and psychological pressure, but she consistently defended her faith, her visions, and her divine mission. Facing threats of execution, Joan initially recanted her claims, signing a document disavowing her visions and agreeing to renounce her military actions. However, shortly after, she revoked her recantation, reaffirming her belief in her divine mission and once again declaring her visions to be true. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was condemned as a heretic and burned at the stake in the marketplace of Rouen at the age of 19. Despite her tragic death, Joan of Arc's legacy endured, inspiring generations of French patriots and becoming a symbol of courage, faith, and national identity. In 1456, Charles VII officially overturned Joan's conviction, declaring her innocent and recognizing her role in securing his throne. Joan of Arc was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church in 1920, cementing her place as one of the most revered figures in French history and a powerful symbol of religious devotion. Her story continues to be celebrated in literature, art, and film, inspiring countless adaptations and interpretations, and serving as a testament to the enduring power of faith and courage in the face of adversity. The Maid of Orléans remains a potent symbol of French nationalism, embodying the spirit of resistance and the unwavering belief in a greater cause.